Does your mind feel louder at night, like anxiety pulls up a chair beside your bed and dares you to rest? What if tonight isn't a battleground, but a banquet? What if God has already set a table for you, not beyond the fear, but right in front of it? Don't run from the pressure. Stay. There is something sacred in this struggle. When your mind races and your chest tightens for no clear reason, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human and beloved. God's message tonight is not, fix yourself, but sit with me. Psalm 91 reminds us we need not fear the terror of night. That includes the unseen wars within, the dread, the shame, the panic that creeps in when the world goes quiet. The enemy waits for that silence. But so does your Savior. This isn't about earning peace. It's about receiving what's already been prepared. In this moment, in this breath, as you lay in bed tonight, let your soul remember, you are not alone. Psalm 23 tells us God prepares a table in the presence of your enemies. Sometimes those enemies are your own thoughts, self-doubt, anxiety, the voice that says you'll never be free. But God's table is immovable. It doesn't shake when fear tries to sit across from you. He is not scared of your panic. He speaks peace right through it. The Good Shepherd doesn't lead you around the valley. He walks with you through it. And tonight, that valley is your mind. Pope Leo XIV once said, "Peace is not escape, it is encounter." And that encounter is happening here, not after the anxiety ends, but while it still lingers. You don't have to silence the storm to hear his whisper. You simply have to stay long enough for it to reach you. Prayer is not performance, it is presence. It's the sacred space where your exhaustion meets his tenderness, where shame melts and truth stands in its place. God doesn't wait for you to calm down before he arrives. He's already here. The breath you're struggling to catch, he gave it. The racing thoughts, he sees them and stays anyway. He places peace, not at the edge of chaos, but at its center. And as the night deepens, hold on to this promise. Psalm 91:4 says, "He will cover you with his feathers. You will find refuge beneath his wings." That means safety is not something you manufacture, it's something you're offered. Peace is not proven by your stillness. It's grounded in God's nearness. And tonight, he is near, very near. Let me ask you now to reflect. Where does your mind wander when sleep is slow to come? What if that exact place becomes your meeting ground with God tonight? Will you believe that your worry doesn't undo your worth? Can you let the stillness he offers enter, not because you've earned it, but because you are eternally loved? He will cover me with his feathers. Under his wings I will find refuge. Psalm 91:4. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Psalm 23:5. Peace I leave with you, not as the world gives. John 14:27. If your mind is still restless, don't rush away. Stay with this prayer. God's message tonight is not to push through the fear, but to sit with him inside it. Breathe in slowly, whisper his name, and let his presence be your peace. Come back tomorrow night. Because peace is not a one-time miracle, it's a practice. And he is guiding you even now. Anxiety doesn't knock politely. It barges in, especially when the world goes quiet and you're left alone with your thoughts. That's when it grows loudest, when there's no conversation to distract you, no task to keep your mind from wandering down dark corridors. For many, night is the hardest part of the day. The bed may be soft, but the mind is sharp, forecasting every worst-case scenario, and in those moments, peace can feel like a faraway fantasy. But here's God's message tonight. Peace is not the absence of noise, it's his presence within it. Psalm 91:5 says, "You shall not be afraid of the terror by night," not because fear won't come, but because it has no final say. You're not abandoned to battle this alone. God has already taken his place beside you, watching while you sleep, whispering calm into every corner your panic tries to occupy. There's nothing too loud in you that his peace cannot quiet. You don't have to fall asleep fearless. You just have to fall asleep with him near. What if you saw your anxiety not as proof of distance from God, but as a signal to draw near? What if your restlessness was actually your soul's hunger for stillness? It's not always about stopping the anxiety, it's about shifting your focus. Philippians 4 doesn't say to never feel anxious. It says to bring your anxiety to God, to present your requests with thanksgiving, and in return, his peace will guard your heart and mind, not replace it, not erase your concerns, but guard them like a strong tower around a weary soul. Tonight, God invites you to let your thoughts wander into his truth. Every fear is met with a promise. Every worry is seen. Every racing heartbeat is heard by the one who formed it. This is not a test of your spiritual maturity. It's an invitation to spiritual surrender. You don't have to be the strong one here. You only need to be still enough to feel the nearness of the one who is strong for you. That's what makes this moment holy. Not your ability to control the storm, but your decision to sit beside the one who already has. Let the rhythm of your breathing become prayer. Inhale, you are with me. Exhale, I will not fear. Inhale, you prepare peace. Exhale, I receive it now. You're not repeating mantras into empty air. You're meditating on the truth of Psalm 23. That even when walking through the valley the shepherd is leading. That valley tonight might be made of late-night panic, but the path is still holy because he is on it with you. Lisa Beverier once described anxiety as the false prophet of the soul. It predicts doom, but God speaks peace. Who will you listen to tonight? Who gets to define the story in your mind, the fear or the Father? And what if the very fact that you're still here, breathing, seeking, means that fear has already lost? You've already chosen to stay at the table, and he has chosen to stay with you. And here's the beauty. Even if you're struggling to believe, that doesn't disqualify you. You don't need perfect faith to receive perfect peace. You just need to stay long enough at the table he's prepared. Let God's message tonight be louder than your fear. Let it wrap around you like a weighted blanket for the soul. You are not too complicated for God. Your mental storms don't intimidate him. In fact, he meets you right in them with comfort that doesn't depend on understanding but on trust. You don't need the answers tonight. You need the assurance, and that assurance is already here, whispering, "You're not alone. You're never alone." Let me ask you now to reflect. Where does your anxiety speak loudest at night? And can you invite God into that space? What would it look like to stop resisting and start receiving the peace already prepared for you? Can you believe that God's presence is real even when calm isn't? Do not be anxious about anything, and the peace of God will guard your heart and mind. Philippians 4:6-7. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night. Psalm 91:5. He restoreth my soul. Psalm 23:3. If anxiety still lingers, don't run. Stay right here. Let tonight's bedtime prayer walk with you into rest. Play it again. Breathe deeper. God's message today is not "get it together." It's "come to me." Let that invitation carry you into sleep. Let peace do what performance never could. He said, let his presence become your pillow tonight. You don't have to be calm to receive calm. That's the quiet truth anxiety never tells you. It whispers that you must earn peace, prove your worthiness for rest, or silence your mind before you're allowed to sleep. But that's not what God says. God says, "Come to me, all you who are weary." He doesn't say come composed. He doesn't say come when your mind is finally quiet. He just says, "Come." In the shadow of racing thoughts and pounding hearts, his presence doesn't withdraw, it draws nearer. Psalm 91 reminds us that you will not fear the terror of night, not because you've learned to control it, but because someone greater is holding you in it. That someone doesn't flinch at your inner chaos. He simply sets the table, not after the panic ends, but right in the presence of it. Peace doesn't wait on perfection. It breaks in, not through willpower, but through wonder. Wonder that the Holy One would draw near, not when you've composed yourself, but when you feel most unraveled. That is where healing begins. Tonight, what if you stopped trying to fix yourself and instead let yourself be fed? What if rest wasn't a reward for getting it right, but a gift for being honest? God doesn't scold your sleeplessness, He sanctifies it. The very space where your control unravels is where His care begins. John 14:27 says He gives peace, not as the world gives. The world waits for silence, resolution, answers. God gives peace in the middle of uncertainty. He offers rest even when the storm hasn't passed. That includes the storm in your chest. Pope Leo XIV taught that the soul heals best when it stops striving and simply stays in God's presence. Tonight, staying is your strength. Meditation is not the absence of thought, it's the redirection of it. Every time your mind returns to fear, gently return it to Him. You are my shepherd. I shall not want. Say it again. Let it soften the places that feel tense. Let it soak into the corners of your soul where fear has built its camp and convince you again that you are safe. Maybe you've tried everything, soft music, melatonin, breathing techniques, and still the anxiety returns like an uninvited guest. But the solution was never just external, it was spiritual. And now you're being led beside still waters, even if the surface of your heart still feels like a storm. Rest isn't about changing your conditions. It's about trusting the one who guards you through them. You're not asked to manufacture calm, only to come with your weariness and lay it down. God's message tonight isn't self-help, it's sacred help. His help is not mechanical or conditional. It is loving, patient, and ever-present. The very act of turning this prayer on is a sign of your longing, and He honors that. You're not failing to sleep. You're learning to trust, and even if trust feels fragile, even if it flickers like a candle in the wind, God calls it faith. And that faith, even when small, is enough to open the door for His peace to enter and stay. Let me ask you now to reflect. What would change if you believed you don't need to be calm before God comes near? How does anxiety twist your view of rest? And how can prayer unravel that? Can you sit at God's table tonight, even if you feel emotionally unready? Peace I leave with you, not as the world giveth. John 14:27. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Psalm 23:2. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. If your thoughts keep pulling you back into worry, don't resist, redirect. Let this night prayer be your anchor. God's message is not about your performance, but about His presence. Press play again if you need to. You're not alone, you're being kept, you're being healed. Even in the unrest, you don't have to be calm to receive calm. That's the quiet truth anxiety never tells you. It whispers that you must earn peace, prove your worthiness for rest, or silence your mind before you're allowed to sleep. But that's not what God says. God says, "Come to me, all you who are weary." He doesn't say, "Come composed." He doesn't say, "Come when your mind is finally quiet." He just says, "Come." In the shadow of racing thoughts and pounding hearts, his presence doesn't withdraw, it draws nearer. Psalm 91 reminds us that you will not fear the terror of night, not because you've learned to control it, but because someone greater is holding you in it. That someone doesn't flinch at your inner chaos. He simply sets the table, not after the panic ends, but right in the presence of it. Peace doesn't wait on perfection. It breaks in. It invades the noise with a holy hush that only heaven can deliver, not through willpower but through wonder. The wonder that God would draw close in your unraveling, not your composure. Tonight, what if you stopped trying to fix yourself and instead let yourself be fed? What if rest wasn't a reward for getting it right, but a gift for being honest? God doesn't scold your sleeplessness. He sanctifies it. The very space where your control unravels is where his care begins. John 14:27 says he gives peace, not as the world gives. The world waits for silence, resolution, answers. God gives peace in the middle of uncertainty. He offers rest even when the storm hasn't passed. That includes the storm in your chest. Pope Leo the Capper told that the soul heals best when it stops striving and simply stays in God's presence. This night, staying is your strength. Meditation is not the absence of thought, it's the redirection of it. Every time your mind returns to fear, gently return it to him. You are my shepherd, I shall not want. Say it again. Let it soak into the corners of your soul where fear has built its camp. Let his word pitch a tent of peace where anxiety has tried to settle in. Maybe you've tried everything: soft music, melatonin, breathing techniques, and still the anxiety returns like an uninvited guest. But the solution was never just external, it was spiritual. And now, you're being led beside still waters, even if the surface of your heart still feels like a storm. Rest isn't about changing your conditions, it's about trusting the one who guards you through them. You're not asked to pretend, to perform, or to have it all figured out. You're asked to lie down, to let go, to allow God's message tonight to speak louder than your inner critic. God's message tonight isn't self-help, it's sacred help. His help is not mechanical or conditional. It is loving, patient, and ever-present. The very act of turning this prayer on is a sign of your longing, and he honors that. You're not failing to sleep, you're learning to trust. You're not behind, you're being held. Even now, God sees the trembling beneath your skin and still calls you beloved. Let me ask you now to reflect. What would change if you believed you don't need to be calm before God comes near? How does anxiety twist your view of rest? And how can prayer unravel that? Can you sit at God's table tonight, even if you feel emotionally unready? Peace I leave with you, not as the world giveth. John 14:27, he maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Psalm 23:2, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28, if your thoughts keep pulling you back into worry, don't resist, redirect. Let this night prayer be your anchor. God's message is not about your performance, but about his presence. Press play again if you need to. You're not alone. You're being kept. You're not too much. You're not too broken. You are simply and deeply loved. Let that truth guide you gently into sleep. The terror of night doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, anxious what-ifs, unfinished conversations, or imaginary futures filled with dread. It doesn't need volume to overwhelm you, just persistence. But tonight, hear this clearly. Anxiety is not your enemy. Running from it doesn't silence it. Fighting it doesn't always win. But God prepares a table in front of it. Right in the presence of what unnerves you, He lays out peace. Not a vague concept, but a real moment of communion. Psalm 23 says, "Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies." Your enemies tonight may not have faces. They may have feelings, panic, exhaustion, despair. But God is not intimidated. His table does not tremble under pressure. He invites you to stay, not to escape, and in staying, to be fed, to be known, to be wrapped in rest. You don't have to understand in order to receive. His peace doesn't require your perfection, only your presence. Imagine this. Instead of wrestling with your thoughts tonight, you kneel in your heart and say, "God, I'm here." That's enough. Not strong, not fixed, just here, because that's where He begins. Not with perfect people, but with present ones. T.D. Jakes once said that real peace is not the absence of problems, but the presence of purpose. Your purpose tonight is not to fight your anxiety, it's to recognize who is with you in it. The shepherd does not wait at the end of the valley. He walks with you through it. You are not journeying toward peace. You are journeying with peace. His name is Jesus. He does not hand out healing like a transaction. He offers Himself, and that offering changes everything. Not always the circumstance, not always the symptom, but the soul. And that's where rest begins. In the soul that knows it is no longer alone. You are not being punished by your panic. You are being pursued by His presence. When anxiety speaks, speak back with Scripture. He shall cover me with His feathers. His peace will guard my mind. I will fear no evil. The words don't erase your panic, but they replace its authority. Every time you breathe Scripture, you shift the atmosphere of your mind. You reclaim the territory that fear tries to occupy. Tonight's anxiety may not go away in a single prayer, but neither does God. He stays, and if He stays, then rest is still possible, even in the tension. Sleep isn't the goal, presence is, and when His presence fills the room, rest becomes possible again. Maybe not perfect sleep, but perfect company. That's enough for tonight. Enough to exhale. Enough to believe. Enough to stay one more breath longer in peace that passes understanding. You don't have to defeat your thoughts. You just have to welcome the one who already overcame them. Let me ask you now to reflect. What anxiety are you trying to escape instead of inviting God into? How might it feel to sit at the table of peace, even while fear is nearby? Do you believe that peace is available now, not just when the fear is gone? Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Psalm 23:5. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. Psalm 91:4. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. First, Isaiah 41:10. Before you try to sleep, pause and receive. Whisper Psalm 23. Breathe in His presence. Play this again if needed. Don't fight the fear, feast in its face. God has prepared peace not after your anxiety, but during it. That is His message tonight. Receive it. Stay. Rest. You're not forgotten in the dark. You're invited to the table. Tonight, before we continue, let us pause and lift up a quiet prayer. Not just for ourselves, but for those who cannot rest because their world has been torn apart. For those who fall asleep to sirens instead of silence. For children whose dreams are interrupted by fear, and for parents whose arms ache from shielding them. For every soul caught in the crossfire of violence, unseen by most, but never unseen by God. Lord, we lift to you all who suffer in silence tonight. Shelter the innocent, heal the wounded, restore what hatred has shattered. Let mercy flow like rivers through the ruins. You are the God who binds up the brokenhearted and gives peace not just to one nation or people, but to all who cry out. Where the world divides, may your spirit gather. Where destruction reigns, may your light break through. Wrap every weeping heart in your comfort. Breathe peace where breath is short, and hold those who no longer have strength to hold themselves. You are not the God of sides. You are the God of souls. Amen. And now, beloved, let us return to the truth that you too are held, that even in your private wars of the mind, the sleepless conflict between what you know and what you feel, God remains your shelter. When you feel like a battlefield, one part peace-seeking, one part panic-stricken, remember this: peace doesn't wait for perfection. It begins wherever you say, Lord, I can't carry this anymore. Philippians 4 tells us that when we bring our anxiety to God, not hide it, not polish it, His peace guards our minds, not like a gentle breeze, but like a warrior at the gate. God is standing at the borders of your thoughts tonight, defending your rest from the attack of fear, not because you've earned it, but because He loves you, because you matter, even now. Especially now. The anxiety you feel is not the absence of faith, it's the place where your faith begins to breathe. Anxiety will try to convince you that you are alone, that no one understands. But you're not alone. You're listening to this because your spirit is still reaching, still hoping. That hope is holy. That hunger is sacred. It's proof you haven't given up. And more than that, it's proof God hasn't given up on you. Pope Leo the Catholic once wrote, "Where fear rages, God kneels beside us, not to lecture, but to listen." That is what He's doing now. He is not waiting for your panic to pass. He is kneeling beside you in it. Breathe slowly, speak honestly. God, I'm tired, I'm afraid, I want peace, but I don't know how to find it. And He will say, I am peace, let me carry you. He doesn't come because you've figured it all out. He comes because you're His, and that alone is enough. Let me ask you now to reflect. Who do you need to pray for tonight? Beyond yourself. How does it feel to imagine God defending your mind while you sleep? What would change if you believed your panic was not a disqualifier, but a doorway to encounter? The peace of God shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:7. He healeth the broken in heart and bindeth up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. You will not fear the terror by night. Psalm 91:5. Let your bedtime prayer tonight stretch beyond your own pain. As you receive peace, ask God to pour it out over those who need it most. Let your rest become intercession. Let your stillness become sacred space. And if you still can't sleep, stay here. Peace isn't gone. It's gathering in you, around you, through you. Breathe. You're not forgotten. You're not invisible. You're held. God says, don't run. There's a table in this darkness. That table isn't set once the fear is gone. It's set because the fear came. In your panic, in your restlessness, in your inability to quiet your mind, God remains the host. He is not waiting for you to calm down. He is waiting for you to come close. When the night closes in and you feel surrounded by invisible enemies, racing thoughts, heart palpitations, that persistent sense of dread, Psalm 23 steps in and says what you're too weary to say. Thou preparest a table before me, right there, right then, not at dawn, not after therapy, not once you've figured it all out. In the presence of your fears, He spreads peace on the table like bread. He pours hope like wine. And you, trembling and unsure, are still the honored guest. His peace is not served in the absence of fear, but in defiance of it. And that defiance is divine. This is the radical love of God. It doesn't retreat in your weakness, it sets up camp in it. Tonight is not about fixing your feelings. It's about finding Him in the middle of them. T.D. Jakes once said that anxiety is often the signal of unprocessed purpose, that fear isn't always the enemy. It's sometimes the echo of a deeper need. Tonight, your need isn't to eliminate anxiety, it's to encounter God within it. Let the shepherd lead you not around the valley, but through it. Psalm 91:4 promises that you are covered under His wings. That promise doesn't disappear when your thoughts speed up. It becomes even more true. Even now, while your body feels tense, your spirit can begin to exhale. You are not failing because you feel afraid. You are being led because you chose to listen, and that listening opens the door to a kind of rest that isn't earned, it's embraced. Meditation in this moment isn't about stopping every thought. It's about letting each anxious thought be met by a greater truth. I feel afraid, but God is near. I feel restless, but He restores my soul. I feel overwhelmed, but He has gone before me. These are not fantasies. They are realities more true than your fear. Lisa Bevere teaches that the table of God's peace is not fast food, it is a feast, and feasts take time. So linger. Let your soul eat slowly tonight. Let your breathing be unhurried. Let your faith be quiet but sure. You don't have to prove anything here, you just have to stay at the table. The invitation has already been extended. Your presence is all that's required. And when you stay, even trembling, you say to fear, you do not get the final word. God does. And He says you are safe. You are seen. You are mine. Let me ask you now to reflect. What fears have been sitting at your table lately, and have you invited God into that space? Can you imagine your anxiety as a signal to slow down and be nourished instead of something to escape? What would it mean to believe that peace is already here, even if fear hasn't yet left? Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Psalm 23:5. Who shall cover thee with his feathers? Psalm 91:4. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Isaiah 41:10. Don't rush to escape your thoughts tonight. Stay, sit at the table. Let every anxious pulse become an invitation. Let God's message tonight echo deep within. You don't have to run. I've prepared this peace for you. Play this prayer again if your mind wanders. There is still a seat for you here. There always will be. Meditation isn't silence, it's surrender. When your thoughts won't stop spinning and your breath feels shallow, what you need isn't more control, it's comfort. You need a place to place it all. The noise, the dread, the guilt of still being anxious. Tonight, that place is God's presence. Meditation for the sleepless doesn't require monk-like stillness. It requires honesty. The kind of honesty that says, God, I can't fix this tonight, but I'm here. And in that quiet confession, something shifts. You stop resisting, you start resting. Even if your body remains tense, your soul begins to release its grip. Psalm 91 becomes more than words, it becomes a shelter. He shall cover thee with his feathers. That is not poetic fluff, it is spiritual reality, the kind you need in the dark. His wings are not decoration, they are defense. Against the panic, against the lies, against the belief that you'll always feel this way. They don't just comfort, they cover, and tonight they are covering you. When anxiety says, "You're stuck," God whispers, "You're safe." When fear says, "You're alone," God replies, "I am here." You don't have to force faith, you just have to let go. Inhale slowly, exhale gently. Not to manipulate your brain waves, but to remember who holds your breath. God does. The same God who parted seas, who sat with the grieving, who wept and waited and loved. He is with you now. T.D. Jakes reminds us that emotional release is often the beginning of healing. Let the tears come if they must. Let the questions surface. You're not being dramatic, you're being human. And God is not disappointed in your weakness. He is drawn to it. That's where He shines. That's where He holds. That's where your weary soul finds its way back to steady ground, not because the storm has stopped, but because your anchor has. Let your night prayer be raw. "Lord, I don't know how to rest. Help me." That's all it takes. Pope Leo XII once said, "The most sacred prayer is the one that stumbles out of your exhaustion." You don't need the right words, you need real ones. And in those real words, peace waits. Meditation isn't escape, it's anchoring. And tonight, your anchor holds. God is not pacing the room in worry. He is seated in sovereignty. His calm is your covering. His presence is not performance-based. It arrives at the mere whisper of your surrender. Stay with Him. Don't strive to feel better, just stay. That is where the healing begins. Not in silence, but in the sound of a heart that dares to stay open. Tonight, your meditation isn't about mastering quiet. It's about meeting the one who is already near. Let me ask you now to reflect. What would change if you treated your anxious thoughts as signals to meditate, not avoid? How can you redefine meditation as sacred surrender instead of stressful silence? What's one thought you can lay at the feet of God right now? He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. Psalm 91:4. Come unto me, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Isaiah 26:3. Let this moment become your sacred meditation. Breathe slowly, repeat the affirmations, and let God hold what you can't. You don't have to master stillness. You just have to enter it. God's message tonight is gentle. Stay with me. That's more than enough. Let it carry you towards sleep. Let it carry you toward peace. Let it carry you home. God's message today is not escape. It is encounter. He doesn't promise you'll never feel anxious again. He promises that when you do, He'll be there. The world teaches you to run from anxiety, to suppress it, numb it, outthink it. But the Spirit whispers something altogether different. Bring it to me. Bring the racing thoughts, the clenched jaw, the heart that skips in panic. Don't edit it. Don't spiritualize it. Just bring it. Because what God wants most is not your performance, it's your presence. Psalm 91 says you will not fear the terror by night, not because it's not terrifying, but because it cannot undo the nearness of the one who watches over you. You don't need to feel brave to be close to God. You only need to be honest. And in that honesty, the door opens not to escape, but to encounter. Tonight is not a detour on your journey, it is the journey. And the shepherd is not impatient. He knows the landscape of your soul, the long valleys, the sharp turns, the places you return to again and again. Psalm 23 says he restores your soul. That means he doesn't just guide you around the anxiety. He walks straight into it with you, restoring what fear tried to fracture. Pope Leo the Captorian once wrote, "The soul learns peace not through denial, but through divine encounter." And divine encounter does not always arrive with fire and miracles. Sometimes it arrives in the slow unfolding of trust, right here, in the darkness, with your hands open and your heart still pounding. When the rest of the world expects composure, God welcomes you with trembling. He meets you not where you should be, but exactly where you are. You may feel like you've prayed this prayer before, like you've tried everything and nothing seems to stick, but you're here again, and that matters. You're not repeating failure, you're practicing faith. Every time you press play, every time you whisper, "Help," every time you surrender the same fear again, heaven responds. God does not grow weary of your need. He is the God of repetition, the God who meets you not just once, but again and again. His mercy is new every night, not just morning, every night, especially nights like this. And each time you show up, you're not back where you started. You're deeper, you're braver, you're becoming. Let this be a sacred pause, not a demand for change, but an invitation to encounter. You don't need to stop your anxiety to find peace. You need to meet the Prince of Peace in the anxiety. That's where your healing begins, not after, now. And when you meet him here, in the trembling and the unknown, something holy happens. You start to believe you're not broken. You're beloved. The ache becomes an altar. The fear becomes a place of visitation. And in that encounter, even if nothing changes around you, everything shifts within you. Because peace is not the absence of fear, it is the presence of God. Let me ask you now to reflect. What would it mean to shift from escaping anxiety to encountering God within it? How has repetition shaped your spiritual journey? And where might God be inviting you to press in again? Can you believe that even in your trembling, you are in sacred territory? You will not fear the terror by night. He restoreth my soul. Psalm 23:3, He restoreth my soul. Psalm 23:3, My presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest. Exodus 33:30-14. Don't rush past this encounter. Sit with it. Let the repetition become holy. Let the fear become the doorway. Let God meet you again, right here. If your heart is still racing, stay. Breathe. Press play again. Peace is not the escape. Peace is the presence. And His presence is with you now. Always now. Especially now. Psalm 23 doesn't avoid the shadows. It walks through them. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. This isn't poetic fiction. It's your present reality. That table, set by God, isn't postponed until your anxiety is over. It's here, now, in the dim light of your uncertainty, in the presence of the fears that won't leave the room. What kind of God sets a feast in front of fear? A God who isn't afraid of it. A God who does not ask you to banish your worry before you can be nourished. He simply asks you to come. Sit. Receive. This table is not based on your perfection. It's based on His presence. And His presence doesn't flinch when your hands tremble. He is not impatient with your panic. He meets it with peace and prepares a place for you to be fed. Even when fear tries to pull up a chair beside you. Tonight, the sacred invitation is not to fight your anxiety, but to eat in front of it. to take hold of rest even while fear watches, because that's where transformation happens, not in escape, but in the defiant act of stillness. Pope Leo Castora once said, "Peace is the courage to be still in the presence of what once broke you." And that's what this night prayer is, courage in quiet. Lisa Bevere teaches that peace is not a passive surrender, but an active choosing. Tonight you choose to sit, to breathe, to believe that even though fear still lingers, it has no power to starve your soul. God feeds you anyway, not scraps, not survival, a feast of hope, of mercy, of truth. A feast that speaks to your spirit, even when your emotions feel uncertain. And what does he feed you? Hope, mercy, truth. Psalm 91 says that under his wings you find refuge. That means your table is covered, shielded from the fiery darts of anxious thoughts. While fear may hiss at the edges, it cannot reach what God has declared sacred. And you, beloved, are sacred. Your thoughts may still swirl, but your soul is seated. That's the miracle. That's the quiet defiance. The shepherd anoints your head with oil, not to erase the fear, but to mark you as chosen, even in the middle of it. You are not just surviving tonight. You are supping with the King, and nothing that troubles you has the power to unseat you from that table. The table is not fragile, it is forever. Meditation tonight is chewing slowly on this truth. I am not alone. I am not defenseless. I am being fed in front of my fear. Repeat it if you must. Sing it if you can. Whisper it if your voice shakes. The feast is real, and so is the one who serves it. You don't have to feel worthy to receive. You just have to stay seated. Let your soul begin to digest the truth that God is not finished with you, and fear is not fed here. You are not just being comforted, you are being nourished, strengthened, loved. Let me ask you now to reflect. What would it mean to sit and eat in front of the fears that try to define you? How does God's table challenge your belief that peace must come after panic? Can you receive spiritual nourishment even if your emotions are still unsettled? Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Psalm 23:5. He shall cover thee with his feathers. He shall cover thee with his feathers. Psalm 91:4-4. My cup runneth over. Psalm 23:5. Stay seated. Let fear watch you feast. Let anxiety see that it cannot starve you. God's table is sturdy, his hands steady, his presence unshakable. Tonight receive what he has already prepared, and if you need to, stay with this prayer. Replay it. Let it be your meal in the night. Peace is not postponed. It is present. It is here, and it is yours. Some fears don't wait for the night to begin. They wake you up, not with sound, but with a sensation. A heart pounding too fast, a breath caught somewhere in your chest, a dread that doesn't name itself but refuses to let go. Panic, like a thief, enters in silence. You might bolt upright in bed, disoriented, or lie frozen, hoping sleep will come back. But here's what you need to know. Waking in fear does not mean you're without faith. It means you're human. And God's message tonight is not condemnation, it's compassion. The psalmist writes, "You shall not be afraid for the terror by night." Not because terror doesn't show up, but because it has no claim over you. Panic may knock, but God answers, not with scolding, but with stillness. Not with punishment, but with presence. When fear floods in like a wave, Psalm 91 becomes your anchor. He shall cover thee with his feathers. That image may sound soft, but it's not weak. It's a picture of divine defense. Like a mother bird guarding her young, God hovers over you, not just with affection, but with authority. Even now, in the cold shock of anxiety, He is covering you, not after the panic passes, in it. Philippians 4:7 says, His peace will guard your heart and your mind. That means your thoughts, even when frayed, are not without protection. Your emotions, even when unraveled, are not unobserved. You are seen, and not only seen, kept, guarded by a God who is stronger than your fear and nearer than your next breath. You are not exposed to chaos. You are covered in covenant. Lisa Bevere reminds us that fear is often loudest when healing is closest, because the enemy panics when you get near peace. So of course the battle intensifies before the breakthrough. That doesn't mean something is wrong. It means something is coming. Tonight's panic may feel like defeat, but in God's presence, it becomes the place where fear loses its grip. Panic says, run. God says, rest. Panic says, fix it. God says, feel it, and I'll hold you through it. Even in the dark, even with your pulse racing, the shepherd is beside you. He is not pacing the floor. He is whispering calm over your soul. The storm inside may still swirl, but you are no longer facing it alone. And even if your body doesn't quiet right away, your soul can begin to trust again. So when you wake up in fear, you don't have to rehearse survival. You can begin to receive presence. The presence of the one who never sleeps, who neither slumbers nor forgets, who keeps watch while you tremble. Pope Leo V once said, "The miracle of night is not that we sleep, but that God never stops keeping watch." And He's watching now, not judging, but guarding, not scolding, but soothing. You are not abandoned in the middle of the night. You are attended to. You are surrounded. You are safe. And in that sacred truth, you are invited to breathe again, not to perform peace, but to receive it. Act 1. Procedure. Mimical. 1. The waked. Health, wealth, becoming game. Let me ask you now to reflect. What does your body feel during a panic attack, and how can you invite God into even that? How does it feel to know that God is not sleeping, even when you're afraid in the middle of the night? What if panic was not the end of peace, but the beginning of surrender? You shall not be afraid for the terror by night. Psalm 91:5, and the peace of God shall keep your hearts and minds. Philippians 4:7, He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. Psalm 91:4, if you've woken up afraid, let this prayer be your lifeline. Press play, breathe slow, don't run from the fear, let God meet you in it. You are not alone in your panic. You are covered in presence. Stay here, rest again. He has not left, not for one moment. You are not failing. You are being fed. That's the truth anxiety tries hardest to hide. It says your struggle means you're broken, that your return to fear means you haven't grown. But God doesn't measure you by how many nights you feel anxious. He measures your soul by the fact that you keep coming back to Him, and every time you return, even tired, even trembling, He welcomes you to the table again. Psalm 23 doesn't say, "You will prepare your own table after you conquer your enemies." It says, "Thou preparest a table before me." It's God's hands doing the setting. It's His mercy doing the feeding. All you have to do is sit. Sitting is not weakness, it is worship. It's not the absence of struggle, it's the presence of surrender. Let tonight's prayer remind you, you are not spiritually behind because you're still anxious. You are spiritually alive because you're still reaching, still showing up, still sitting at the table. Anxiety doesn't cancel that, it proves it. It shows you're in the battle, and battles are where God does his most intimate work. D.D. Jakes says that healing often looks like repetition, and that's okay. Sometimes healing is slow because God is doing something deep. He's not just calming your symptoms, he's feeding your soul. And feeding takes time. You don't microwave soul restoration, you slow cook it. In prayer, in presence, in tears that don't always make sense. Tonight, trust that your effort to be here is enough. You're not here to perform peace. You're here to receive it. Even if the peace feels small, if it finds you here, it's already enough. Let go of the shame of not being healed yet, the shame of having to press play again, the shame of waking up at 3 a.m. in panic. It's not weakness. It's your moment to be reminded that God's faithfulness isn't measured by how fast you calm down. It's measured by how close he stays while you wait. He is not ashamed of you. He's feeding you. You are the sheep who needs extra leading, extra comfort, extra reminders. And he's the shepherd who never grows weary of giving it. Let Psalm 91 cover you again. He shall cover thee with his feathers. That means that when you lie down, even anxious, even exhausted, you are lying down under the wings of protection, not in the shadow of failure. You are not the problem, you are the guest. And a table hasn't closed. Pope Leo XII once taught, what God feeds in the dark becomes your strength in the dawn. Tonight is not wasted, it's nourishment, sacred, quiet, invisible soul food. Don't measure this night by how many hours you sleep. Measure it by how much closer you come to trusting God, right here, exactly as you are. You don't need to finish strong, you just need to stay open. Because when God feeds you in the dark, it's not for survival, it's for strength. And tomorrow's strength is being prepared in tonight's stillness. Let me ask you now to reflect. What shame around your anxiety do you need to release tonight? How would it feel to believe that being anxious doesn't disqualify you? It draws you into deeper healing. Can you receive this night not as failure, but as sacred feeding? Thou preparest a table before me. Psalm 23:5. Thou shall cover thee with his feathers. Psalm 91:4. I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, might be your Psalm 23:4. Breathe in, sit down in spirit, receive what God has prepared for you. This is not a performance, it's a meal for your soul. Let the table he set quiet your mind. Let the prayer feed your spirit. If it takes time, let it. God's message tonight is simple. You are not failing, you are being fed. Stay here, you're safe, you're loved, and the table is still full. Hell, which shall cover thee with his feathers. That promise from Psalm 91 isn't symbolic, it's spiritual reality. You don't see feathers, but you are being covered right now in this moment. As anxiety hums beneath your ribs or tightens around your thoughts, God wraps his protection around you like wings around a trembling child. Not because you've prayed hard enough, not because you've figured out the solution, but because that's who he is, the God who guards, the God who stays, the God who watches you as you try to rest and doesn't flinch at your fear. He sees your thoughts looping, your chest rising too fast, your mind bargaining with sleep, and yet he whispers, I'm here, I've got you. Not to shame you into strength, but to shield you in softness. This is not the absence of trouble, it's the presence of refuge. So often we imagine that peace means the absence of feeling, but God doesn't promise numbness, he promises nearness. And nearness changes everything. Philippians 4 reminds us that his peace guards our hearts and minds, not by removing the storm, but by standing in front of it. Peace is a person, not a performance, and that person, Jesus, is present in this room with you right now. You are not waiting for peace to descend. You are already under its wings. The war in your thoughts may still rage, but you are not exposed. You are hidden, not from the world, but in Him. He is not pacing with worry. He is settled, and because He is settled, you are safe. Pope Leo XV once said, "The night doesn't expose your weakness, it reveals your covering." And it's true. You wouldn't need wings if there wasn't a wind. You wouldn't need shelter if there wasn't threat. But what covers you is stronger than what hunts you. What surrounds you is greater than what shakes you. You may feel vulnerable, but you are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You are not exposed. God has already surrounded your mind, your breath, your body with Himself. There is no gap in His defense, no weak spot in His presence. Lisa Bevere teaches that when we rest under God's covering, we aren't ignoring the storm. We're resting in something greater than it. That's your invitation tonight. Not to ignore the anxiety, but to rest under wings that do not fold. Wings that will never fold. Wings that will never fold. Not in the dark, not under pressure, not for you. You're not weak because you need protection. You're wise because you chose to receive it. And tonight, that wisdom is worship. Every time you say, "God, I trust you," even through clenched teeth, that is praise. Every time you lay down again and again, despite the fear, that is worship. You are not far from God in your anxiety. You are resting right beneath Him, and He is not going anywhere. The same wings that covered you last night are stretched wide again tonight, and they will be again tomorrow, until your panic fades, until your breathing slows, until peace is not something you chase, but something you live in. You are not exposed, you are covered, and you are not doing this alone. Let me ask you now to reflect. What would change if you believed you are already covered, even while afraid? How does redefining protection as presence affect how you experience anxiety? Can you trust that God's wings are wide enough for your worry? He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. The Lord is thy keeper, the Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. Psalm 121:5. The peace of God shall keep your hearts and minds. Philippians 4:7. If you're still searching for calm, pause here. Breathe under His wings. Let every racing thought fall into the silence of His nearness. You're not exposed. You are covered. That's God's message tonight. Stay in this shelter as long as you need. Peace is not a finish line. It's a place to dwell, and you are already there. When sleep feels impossible, let this peace be enough. Not because the racing thoughts have stopped, but because they no longer get the final word. Tonight is not a test of whether you can outthink your fear. It's an invitation to let go of the fight altogether. God never promised that you would always sleep soundly. But He did promise that even in the sleepless hours you would not be alone. Psalm 91 speaks not just to protection, but to presence. Shall cover thee. Under His wings shalt thou trust. That means you can lie in bed tonight without answers, without control, and still be at peace, because you are not lying in uncertainty. You are lying in the shelter of the Almighty, where no fear can undo what His love has already secured. The peace God offers doesn't come from explanations, it comes from proximity, from the realization that the God who crafted galaxies is watching over you, not to evaluate your coping, but to hold your soul. Lisa Bevere teaches that rest is not passive, it's warfare. Every time you choose to lie still and trust that God is working even when you are not, you wage war against anxiety. And in that battle, stillness becomes strength. Pope Leo XIV says, "The soul at peace becomes a lighthouse in the storm." Tonight, you are not lost in the storm. You are becoming the light that outlasts it. Your stillness becomes your testimony, not of having it all together, but of choosing to stay when everything inside wants to run. You may not fall asleep in the next 5 minutes, and that's okay, because this night is not measured in hours slept, but in grace received. Let the silence become sacred. Let your breath become prayer. Each inhale, God, I receive you. Each exhale, I release my fear. This is holy rhythm. This is how your soul returns home. Even if the thoughts come back, even if the pressure tightens again, you can still be at rest. Because peace is not the absence of tension, it's the presence of God in the midst of it. You're not behind. You're not too much. You are here. And God is too. You don't have to escape your mind to find peace. You only need to invite God into it, and He comes quickly to the honest, to the exhausted, to the ones who whisper help when no one else hears. If tonight you feel like your efforts to rest have failed, remember this: you're still here, still listening, still breathing, still choosing presence over panic. And that is more than enough. You are not a failure at rest. You are a witness to grace, a soul learning, night by night, that peace is not earned, it is received, and it is yours even now. Let me ask you now to reflect. What are you still trying to fix in order to rest? And can you lay it down tonight? How can you redefine peace not as perfection, but as presence? Are you willing to let go of control if it means gaining deeper comfort? Under His wings shalt thou trust, Psalm 91:4. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee. Isaiah 26:3 maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Psalm 23:2. If sleep hasn't come yet, let peace come first. Let this night be more about communion than control. Play this again if you need to. Let your stillness speak louder than your fear. God's message tonight is simple and sacred. Even without sleep, I will hold you. Rest in that. Let it be enough. Let Him be enough. Psalm 91 isn't a wish, it's a watchtower. When anxiety creeps into the corners of your night, it tries to convince you that you're defenseless. But you're not. You are surrounded, not by fear, but by faith, not by panic, but by protection. He shall cover thee with His feathers, the psalm says, and under His wings shalt thou trust. That's not poetic comfort, that's divine structure. A spiritual shelter built to outlast every mental storm. Fear may ring the bell at the gates of your heart, but it cannot enter when God is on watch. You are not vulnerable. You are vigilantly guarded by the one who neither slumbers nor sleeps. Tonight, instead of asking, "Why am I still anxious?" ask, "Where is God in this?" Because He is always near, always watching, always keeping. His peace isn't the absence of all fear, it's the presence of a promise. Philippians 4:7 assures us that His peace guards our hearts and minds. That's the role of a sentinel, a defender. God doesn't just offer comfort, He wages war against the chaos within you, and He never loses. When you feel weakest, He is strongest. When your thoughts spiral, His Spirit surrounds. That's the divine exchange, your unrest for His unshakable calm. Pope Leo XIV once wrote, "The one who rests in God becomes a tower within the storm." Tonight, You don't need to climb your way out of fear. You only need to remain within the shelter that's already been built for you. Let Psalm 91 be the structure that steadies you. Let every word become bricks around your mind, insulating you from the false prophecies of panic. You are not unguarded. You are under watch. The shepherd of your soul never takes his eyes off you. His presence is not distant, it's deliberate. His posture toward your panic is not frustration, it's protection. Lisa Bevere teaches that the enemy wants you to believe anxiety means God has stepped away, but Scripture tells another story. Anxiety is where God steps closer, where He stands between you and what you fear. Your job tonight is not to win the war within, it's to trust the one who is already standing guard. Let that trust deepen with every breath. Inhale, I am watched. Exhale, I am safe. Inhale, God sees me. Exhale, I will sleep in peace. And even if peace doesn't come all at once, know that your breathing is a prayer. Your stillness is a stance. You are not fighting alone. You are being kept. Let me ask you now to reflect. What anxious thoughts feel like invaders tonight, and how does it feel to imagine God guarding your mind from them? What if you stopped trying to guard yourself and began to trust that you're already being protected? How does Psalm 91 shift your understanding of what peace really means? He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. Psalm 91:4. The peace of God shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Philippians 4:7. The Lord is thy keeper. Psalm 121:5. Tonight, stop standing guard over your thoughts. Let God do what only He can. Let Psalm 91 be your refuge. Let this prayer be your gate. Press play again if the fear returns. His peace is not temporary, it is timeless, and His eyes have never left you. Rest in that truth. You are not alone. You are under watch. You are being kept, and you are deeply, eternally safe. Let the shepherd lead you back to breath and rest. That's the invitation tonight. Not to solve the anxiety, but to follow the one who already knows the way out. When fear narrows your vision and you forget how to breathe freely, Psalm 23 whispers, He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Not asks, not suggests, maketh. Because God knows you won't always feel ready to rest. You won't always feel worthy of stillness. But He leads you anyway. He makes space for rest, even when your body resists it. Tonight, if your thoughts are racing and your breath is short, stop trying to force calm. Let Him lead you back to it. You are not asked to be strong enough to fix yourself. You are invited to be still enough to be led. This is not about fixing your night. It's about finding your footing again in trust. T.D. Jakes reminds us that spiritual breathing starts with surrender. You inhale the truth, God is near. You exhale the lie, I have to do this alone. You inhale peace, you exhale pressure. That's the rhythm. Not perfect stillness, but persistent trust. When fear loops, return to the shepherd. Repeat His name, Jesus. There's power in that name. Not magic, just presence. The kind of presence that calms waters and restores tired souls. Even now, as you lie in the stillness of this room, your soul is being led, not by fear, but by love. And love does not abandon. Love walks you home. Pope Leo XXVI once said, "The shepherd's voice is softer than fear, but stronger than death." And that's what makes this night holy. You're not waiting to be rescued. You're already being led, and the direction is rest. You don't have to figure it out. Just follow. Let go of what you can't control. God sees the tangled thoughts. He knows the heartache behind the tight chest. He knows the dread behind the silence. And still, He's guiding you gently, not scolding, not rushing, leading, breath by breath, thought by thought, step by step, into peace, into stillness, into the kind of rest that doesn't depend on sleep, but on surrender. Meditation tonight means letting your breath match His rhythm. He restoreth my soul. Say it slowly. Let it echo between the heartbeat and the holy silence. Lisa Bevere teaches that rest is a form of resistance against chaos, against fear, against the lie that you have to fix everything. When you rest, you resist fear's dominion, and that is spiritual warfare in its purest form. Tonight is not wasted. It is warfare through stillness, victory through yielding, holiness through letting go. The shepherd is leading, you are following, and that alone is enough. Let me ask you now to reflect. What does it look like for you to follow God back to rest instead of forcing yourself toward peace? What lie is keeping you from releasing control tonight, and how can truth interrupt it? Can you trust the shepherd, even when you don't feel strong? He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Psalm 23:2. He restoreth my soul. Psalm 23:3. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. Let this prayer become your breath. Slow, steady, sacred. Don't force rest. Follow the one who leads you to it. The shepherd is near. You are not lost. Let go. Let God guide. And if sleep doesn't come quickly, stay here. His voice is still calling you back to breath and rest. That's His message tonight. Receive it. Let it carry you gently home. You don't need to finish the fight. Just be still. That's the sacred truth so often forgotten in the late hours, when your mind replays every unfinished conversation, every looming decision, every silent fear. Anxiety tells you to solve it before sleep, to wrestle your way to peace. But God says something gentler, holier. Be still and know that I am God. Stillness is not surrender to fear. It's surrender to trust. You are not the defender of your mind tonight. God is. Psalm 91 is not an instruction for battle. It's a promise of protection. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, not because you're stronger than fear, but because God is near to you in it. The moment you stop trying to win and start choosing to rest, peace begins to flow. Not because the fear is gone, but because you're no longer facing it alone. Stillness is not silence. Stillness is presence. It's the quiet decision to stop running from your thoughts and to sit down beside them with God. To say, I don't know how to fix this, but I choose to believe you're still here. That's holy defiance. It's worship that doesn't wait for feelings to catch up. Pope Leo the Captoris once wrote, "Stillness is the loudest act of faith in a world ruled by fear." And you tonight are choosing that act. Even if your heart still pounds, even if your thoughts still tangle, stillness doesn't need to make the noise stop. It just needs to anchor you in the one who never moves. You don't have to fight your way into peace. You only need to stay long enough to be reminded that peace is already holding you. D.D. Jakes reminds us that peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the assurance of covering. When you choose stillness, you're choosing to sit under God's wings, even while the storm rages outside. And He is not asking you to do more tonight. He's asking you to rest more deeply in the truth that He is doing the watching. He is doing the guarding. You can rest because He is awake. Psalm 23 says He leads you beside still waters, not because the world is still, but because His Spirit makes stillness possible even in chaos. He prepares a place in the middle of it, not after it. And that's where you are now, invited into peace, not through striving, but through surrender. So release the pressure. You don't need to tie up every loose end in your mind before you sleep. You don't need to conquer your anxiety in one night. You only need to be still long enough to remember who holds you. The shepherd is not pacing. He's already prepared a place for you. Lie down, breathe slow. Let stillness be your strength tonight. Let trust be your rhythm. You are safe, you are covered. You are still. Let me ask you now to reflect. What are you still trying to resolve in your mind that God is asking you to release? How might your night change if you embraced stillness as a form of worship, not weakness? What would it feel like to rest as though God is already handling what you're carrying? Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46 verse 10. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night. Psalm 91:5. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Psalm 23:2. Tonight, don't finish the fight. Choose stillness instead. Let this prayer carry you where your strength cannot. Let God be your guard. Replay this if your thoughts rise again. Stillness is not failure. It's faith. And your faith is seen. Breathe. Rest. Be still. God is here. That is enough. God says, you're not alone with this fear tonight. That truth may feel distant when you're lying in the dark, surrounded not by people but by pressure. Pressure to sleep, to calm down, to just stop worrying. But fear is a heavy companion, and it rarely leaves because someone tells it to. That's why God doesn't just speak from a distance. He enters the room, your fear, your sleeplessness, not to lecture you, but to love you. Psalm 91:5 promises you will not fear the terror of night, not because terror won't come knocking, but because it cannot stay when His presence fills the space. Even if the fear hasn't disappeared, it has been interrupted by divine company, and that interruption, however small, is sacred. Tonight, your racing thoughts are not evidence of failure. They are invitations. Each anxious loop is a place where God is waiting to meet you. T.D. Jakes reminds us that healing often begins in the most honest places, and tonight that honesty sounds like this. Lord, I'm scared. I'm tired. I don't know what to do with these feelings. That kind of prayer doesn't offend heaven. It draws it closer. God doesn't grow silent when your mind grows loud. He grows nearer. Pope Leo the Capti once said, "Fear is loud, but it does not win. God is quieter and deeper. His voice is beneath the noise. And if you listen, you'll hear it even now. I am here. I will not leave. You are not alone." That whisper doesn't erase all fear, but it rewrites the room. It gives fear company it cannot conquer. Sometimes the greatest miracle isn't deliverance from fear, but communion within it. And that's what's happening now. You may not feel peaceful yet, but you are not abandoned. Lisa Bevere teaches that peace isn't about feeling different. It's about knowing you're not forsaken. That knowing settles the spirit. That knowing lets you release the guilt of not being better yet. Tonight is not about progress. It's about presence. You are allowed to sit here exactly as you are and be held. You are allowed to feel afraid without being far from God. Your feelings don't disqualify you. They draw you deeper into divine intimacy. Let your breath become truth again. Inhale, you are here. Exhale, I am not alone. Inhale, you are with me. Exhale, fear is not stronger than your love. Let the fear be what it is, but don't let it define your night. Let God define this moment. Let Him rename it, not as failure, but as fellowship, not as panic, but as prayer. This night is holy because God is here. And if you forget, come back to the breath. Come back to the truth. Not because your mind is quiet, but because His love is louder. His presence is steady, and His whisper is waiting. You're not alone. You've never been. Where do you most feel alone in your fear? And can you invite God into that specific space? How does the truth of God's presence shift your relationship with anxiety? What if the fear didn't need to leave for you to still be comforted? You shall not be afraid of the terror by night. Psalm 91:5. Fear not, for I am with thee. Thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Psalm 23:4. Don't rush past this moment. Let the fear remain, but let God remain louder. Replay this prayer if the pressure returns. You don't need to chase calm. You need to welcome presence. And God's message tonight is simple, sacred, and enough. You are not alone. Stay here, be held. Let the night be holy. Let love be louder. Let presence be your peace. The peace that passes understanding is still being offered, even now when the clock keeps ticking and sleep still hasn't come. Even now when your mind replays every mistake, every worry, every fear about what tomorrow may hold. Philippians 4 doesn't say peace comes after everything is fixed. It says peace comes in exchange for everything you surrender. And tonight, surrender isn't a grand act. It's a quiet whisper. God, I can't carry this anymore. In that confession, the miracle begins. Because peace isn't the result of resolution, it's the result of presence. God doesn't wait until your fear is gone to give you peace. He brings peace into your fear. He prepares rest in front of what's still unfinished. He doesn't erase the storm to prove His love. He sits beside you in it to remind you that you're never alone. There's a reason Jesus said, "My peace I give unto you, not as the world gives." The world gives peace through escape, through noise, through distraction, but God gives peace through encounter. Pope Leo XIV once wrote, "The soul doesn't outgrow its need for stillness, it grows deeper into it." And tonight, your need is not proof of failure, it's proof of openness. You are not disqualified by your restlessness. You are being drawn in. You are being invited to exchange anxiety for assurance, not because you've earned it, but because God loves you too much to let fear have the final word. You don't need a new strategy. You need a deeper surrender. Stillness is not the absence of emotion. It's the posture of trust. That's where peace is found. Lisa Bevere teaches that peace is a weapon, and tonight, that weapon is still in your hands. Not the kind that fights with noise or force, but the kind that simply says, "I choose to trust." Every time you release the grip on your fear, every time you breathe and whisper His name, you are wielding that peace, and heaven takes notice. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are not too broken to be met. God sees the whole picture of your pain, and still He stays, still He covers, still He sings over you in the night. He doesn't wait for your heart to calm before He comes near. He draws near, and that is what begins to calm your heart. His peace is not delayed. It is present even now. Let this be the moment where you stop waiting for a feeling and start trusting a fact. God is here, right now, and He is offering you peace that makes no sense to the world, but speaks directly to your soul. Peace that doesn't erase the storm but steadies your boat. Peace that doesn't erase the fear but holds your hand through it. Peace that says, you don't have to understand, just receive. That's what God is placing before you tonight, an invitation. Will you receive it? What would it look like to receive peace tonight, even without understanding how or why? Where have you been waiting for circumstances to change, instead of receiving peace in the middle of them? Can you trust that peace is being offered to you personally, lovingly now? And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds. Philippians 4:7. My peace I give unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. John 14:27. Thou preparest a table before me, my cup runneth over. Psalm 23:5. Let go of needing it all to make sense. Let this moment be enough. God's message tonight is not a demand, it's a gift. Open your hands, open your heart, receive the peace that still waits for you. If you need to hear it again, press play. God hasn't moved. His peace is still being offered. Take it, rest in it, let it hold you, let it be enough. Let Him be enough. Pope Leo the Corset once said, peace is not escape, it's encounter. And tonight that encounter is not far away, it is here. Not waiting for you in the next stage of life, not hidden behind tomorrow's clarity, but present in this very breath, this very silence. You don't need to climb a mountain of faith to find it. You only need to sit down in your soul and say, I'm here, God, and He will say, so am I. This is not an encounter for the strong. It's an encounter for the surrendered, for the weary, for the anxious, for you. That's where peace begins, not in fleeing the fear, but in facing it with the Father beside you. You're not being asked to solve the night, only to share it with the one who's never left your side. His nearness is not dependent on your composure. It comes the moment you whisper, I can't carry this alone. And that's enough for Him to draw near. Psalm 23 says, Thou art with me, not just when the path is green, but when the valley is dark, not just in joy, but in fear, not just when you've figured everything out, but when your questions keep you up at night. That's the kind of encounter God offers, not a distant glance, but a nearness so intimate that even your unspoken fears are understood. Lisa Bevere reminds us that God never wastes a valley, and this valley of anxiety, this place where you feel most vulnerable, is not the end of your story. It's the place where He meets you face to face. This is where the real miracle begins, not when the panic disappears, but when presence becomes the louder truth. God doesn't wait for the fear to fade before He joins you. He steps in as it rises, planting peace where you least expected to find it. Tonight, let encounter replace escape. Stop trying to outrun the worry. Let it sit, and let God sit with you in it. You are not a project to be fixed. You are a person to be loved. And love does not leave when things get messy. It moves closer. D.D. Jakes teaches that God is not intimidated by your fear. He moves through it like light through a cave. His light doesn't need your permission. It only needs your presence. And that, beloved, is what you've already given. You're here. You're listening. You're choosing to stay instead of escape. That is sacred ground. Every anxious thought becomes an altar when you bring it into the presence of a God who stays. You don't need to explain your panic. You only need to invite him into it, and he will come, not to scold, but to shelter. This is not a quick fix. It's not a spiritual transaction. It's a holy encounter. And every time your breath shakes, but your soul whispers, "I trust you anyway," heaven leans in. The shepherd is not far off. He is at the table, in the valley, at your side, in your mind. This moment is the miracle. This stillness is the sacred. Let the fear remain if it must, but let it be surrounded by something greater. God is not asking you to flee. He is asking you to stay and encounter him right here. Let the silence speak of safety. Let your unrest become the very place where he whispers love. This isn't about conquering your fear. It's about consecrating the space it once occupied, redefining it, reclaiming it, redeeming it. What fear have you been trying to escape that God is gently asking you to face with him? How does the idea of encounter shift your understanding of peace? Are you willing to let tonight's anxiety become sacred ground instead of something to run from? Thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Verse 23:4. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you. John 14:27. John 14:27. Under his wings shalt thou trust. Psalm 91:4. Don't run, encounter. Let this prayer be your meeting place with God. Let the fear stay if it must, but surround it with faith. If the silence feels heavy, sit in it. God is in it. Press play again if needed. Peace is not escape. Peace is here. And tonight, it has your name on it. You don't have to be brave. You just have to be present. Let that be your worship. Let that be enough. Tonight's prayer is a bridge between terror and trust, between what you feel and what you know, between the chaos in your mind and the calm in God's heart. You may not feel brave, but the very fact that you're still reaching, still praying, still breathing through the pressure, that is courage. Psalm 91 tells you that you will not fear the terror by night, but that doesn't mean you won't feel it. It means the fear doesn't get to define the night. God does. And his definition isn't terror. It's trust. It's refuge. It's presence that holds you when your own strength cannot. You're not disqualified by your trembling. You're welcomed through it. This bridge isn't built by your strength, but by your surrender. And tonight, your surrender is enough. Sometimes the bridge is shaky. You step forward, then step back. You pray and still feel afraid. You whisper scripture and still feel tension. That's okay. The bridge wasn't built by your stability. It was built by his faithfulness. Step by step, thought by thought, breath by breath, he walks you across. And even if you don't make it all the way tonight, you are still on holy ground. Lisa Bevere says faith isn't the absence of feeling, it's the choice to move through it anyway. And that's what you're doing now, moving from panic to peace, from surviving the night to encountering the God who owns it. Even your hesitation holds value, because it shows you're still here, still trying, still trusting. And God meets you in the trying, not after you've made it, but while you're still mid-step. Pope Leo XX once said, "Every night holds the potential for a miracle, not because you're perfect, but because God never stops working. He is working now, even while you lie in bed, even while your body feels uneasy, even while your questions outnumber your answers." You don't need to cross the entire bridge tonight. You only need to take the next step. And that step is this prayer, this breath, This choice to trust that even in fear you are not forsaken. The shepherd is walking with you, guiding you not around the fear but through it. He is not watching from a distance. He is walking beside you, holding your pace, matching your breath, whispering, "You're not alone." And that truth is stronger than the panic. E.D. Jakes reminds us that deliverance doesn't always look like escape. It often looks like endurance, and endurance doesn't mean gritting your teeth. It means relaxing into God's grip. You're not holding on to Him, He's holding on to you. Let that be your strength. Let that carry you from fear to faith, from panic to peace. This is the bridge, and you're already on it. There's no race to finish tonight, no test to pass, just a journey to walk slowly, breath by breath, prayer by prayer, presence by presence. God isn't asking for perfection. He's asking for your hand. Give it to Him. Again, let the weight fall off your shoulders and into His. You don't have to arrive at peace. You only have to walk toward it. What part of your anxiety do you still feel you have to conquer alone? How would it feel to believe that trust is already forming within you, even if the fear hasn't vanished? What is the next small step you can take toward trust tonight? Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night. Psalm 91:5. Yea, though I walk through the valley, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. My peace I give unto you. My peace I give unto you. John 14:27. You're already on the bridge. Don't turn back. Let this prayer walk you across. Play it again if you need to. Stay in the presence that is stronger than panic. Let trust rise. God's message tonight is simple. You're not alone, and this moment is the turning point. Keep walking. Peace is just ahead, and every breath is a step closer. Let that be enough. Let that be your miracle. Sleep is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of worship. To lie down in the middle of unanswered prayers, unfinished thoughts, and unresolved fears, and still say, "God, I trust you enough to stop trying tonight," is one of the holiest decisions you can make. Psalm 23 doesn't end in the valley. It ends at the table with an overflowing cup, and then the promise, "Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." That's not just a future hope. It's a present reality. Right now, as you prepare to close your eyes, you are already being followed by goodness, already being wrapped in mercy, already being welcomed into a rest that is sacred, not selfish. This is not the absence of action. It is the presence of surrender. And that surrender is not failure. It is faith. God's message tonight is not do more. It's come to me. Let your bed become an altar. Let your breath become a song. Let your rest become your response to the chaos of the world. This is not spiritual laziness, it's spiritual alignment. Lisa Bevere says that rest is rebellion against the pace of fear, and Pope Leo XV reminds us that the soul finds its highest form not in striving, but in surrender. So tonight, surrender, not in defeat, but in dignity. You are not giving up, you are giving over. Giving your thoughts, your fears, your body, your breath to the one who gave them to you in the first place. And in that giving you receive, not answers, not immediate change, but presence. And presence is what your soul has been craving all along. T.D. Jakes teaches that sleep is prophetic, that to rest while the world rushes is to declare God is in control. And tonight, you get to make that declaration without saying a word, by simply letting go, by unclenching your fists, by softening your heart, You are not falling asleep away from God. You are falling asleep in God, in His arms, under His wings, within His promises. And those promises do not expire when the lights go out. They cover you all night, every hour, every breath. You are not resting because you've earned it. You're resting because you've been invited. That invitation stands even now. So breathe deeply now. Let your thoughts drift, not into panic, but into presence. Let Psalm 91 become your lullaby. He shall cover thee with his feathers. Let Psalm 23 hold your hand. Thou art with me. Let John 14:27 speak into your stillness. My peace I give unto you. This is your worship. This is your trust. This is your holy exhale. You are not falling behind. You are falling into grace. Sleep is not escape. It's communion. And this communion, this sacred stillness, is where the fear finally loses its grip. Not because it was chased away, but because it was surrounded by something stronger. What would it look like to treat your sleep as a sacred offering instead of an escape? How does surrendering your mind at bedtime shift your understanding of rest? Can you trust that goodness and mercy are following you even now? Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. Psalm 91:4. My peace I give unto you. Let not your heart be troubled. John 14:27. Tonight, rest is your response, your surrender, your trust. Let sleep become worship. Let this prayer lead you gently into the presence of the one who stays awake so you don't have to. Replay this if you need to, but above all, close your eyes knowing this. God is near, and peace is not leaving with the night. It is staying with you until morning. Sleep well, beloved. You are held. You are safe. You are His.